Evan declared, "We're heading in a new direction." 50 pairs of eyes flickered between his face on the screen and mine at the table as his speech sounded clear over the conference room speakers. Laura will be stepping down from her role as Senior Vice President of Sales, effective immediately. With my hands folded neatly over the leather portfolio I'd brought to every significant client meeting for the previous 12 years, I sat still. My team's expressions were filled with dread and bewilderment as they gazed at me. A few people gaped in astonished silence. Evan went on, pointing to the young blonde seated next to him, who gave the camera a radiant, Instagram-worthy grin. "Jenna Coleman will be stepping into a strategic leadership role," Evan said. The temperature in the room appeared to decrease by 10 degrees. Jenna, the lady who had spent the previous month dangling Evan's arm at business events. The former lifestyle influencer who had never worked in sales. The new girlfriend. Of the age of 54, I, Laura Pickens, created the whole sales division of Trellis Systems from scratch. We were a struggling IT company with a respectable product and poor market penetration when I started more than 10 years ago. While my peers were preparing for retirement, I spent my evenings cold calling prospects, developing training manuals, and composing screenplays. I made us a national player by the 5th year. We were acquiring multi-million-dollar accounts by year 10, almost entirely because to the personal customer connections I had meticulously built. I turned to face my team, the individuals I had recruited, developed, and guided. The foundation of a business that currently makes more than $25 million a year. The same notion was mirrored in their faces. This was nonsensical. "Laura has been instrumental in building our sales infrastructure," Evan said, seemingly out of the blue, "and we thank her for her service." As though I were being honorably released after a stint of duty. Silent inquiries were pushing down on the room, and I could feel it. Why was this taking place? How come no one had been told? Why was the company's most important revenue-generating section being taken over by the CEO's girlfriend? I didn't flinch, though. I refrained from arguing. I didn't even display a hint of the anger that was simmering behind my well-preserved calm. Rather, I grinned, collected my reports, and got to my feet. "I wish you all continued success," I remarked emphatically, looking directly at each team member. "The prediction reports for this quarter are finished. The client's contact details have been updated. Everything is in its proper place." On the screen, where Jenna was already chatting animatedly about new viewpoints and digital-first strategies, I gave Evan a single nod. I then quietly closed the door behind me as I left. What they had just done was unknown to them. Since the board appointed Evan Strickland as our new CEO, I had been able to notice the warning flags for months. He had the assurance that comes with never having really failed, and he was 38. His reputation as a visionary predated him, and his prior enterprises had been bought out before they had to turn a profit. Within weeks, he was reshuffling the executive team, bringing in people from his previous ventures. The longtime chief technology officer was the first to go, replaced by someone Evan had worked with at his last company. Then went our chief financial officer. Each time, the announcement was framed as moving in an exciting new direction. I survived the initial wave by delivering what I always had, results. Our sales numbers were better than ever despite the turbulence at the top. I thought that would be enough, but I should have known better. In Evan's world, loyalty trumped performance. Personal relationships trumped professional competence. As I cleared out my office, methodically placing 12 years of accomplishments into cardboard boxes, my assistant Valerie hovered in the doorway, her eyes red-rimmed. "This is insane," she said quietly. "Everyone knows it." I carefully wrapped a crystal award, top sales performance, North America region, 3 years ago in newspaper. "It's business," I replied evenly. "Nothing personal." "It's completely personal," Valerie argued. "She's his girlfriend. She was posting yoga poses on Instagram 2 months ago, and now she's supposed to run a $2 million sales operation." I placed the wrapped award in my box and looked up at Valerie. For 8 years, she'd been my right hand. She knew every client, every deal structure, every relationship I'd built. "What will you do?" she asked. "Take some time," I said. "Consider my options." I closed the box and sealed it with packing tape, the sound sharp in the quiet office. What about you? Valerie straightened her shoulders. I already told Human Resources I'm giving my 2 weeks' notice. I nodded, unsurprised. Loyalty ran both ways on my team. Do me a favor, I said. Before you go, make sure the contact information for Patterson Healthcare and National Building Supply gets transferred correctly. They've got renewal decisions coming up in the next 30 days. Those 2 accounts alone represented over $5 million in annual revenue. Valerie's eyes met mine, understanding dawning on her face. She nodded slowly. I'll make sure everything is accurately transferred, she said. I smiled, the first genuine one since the meeting. That's all I ask. What Evan didn't understand, what he couldn't possibly comprehend, was that my client relationships weren't attached to the company. They were attached to me. Over 12 years, I had personally cultivated trust with every major account we had. Most were secured through one-on-one deals, favors, and late-night crisis calls. The trust wasn't with Trellis Systems. It was with Laura Pickens. 3 weeks after my unceremonious departure, I was sitting on my back deck in North Raleigh, enjoying a cup of coffee and the morning quiet when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Harold Barnes, the purchasing director of Patterson Healthcare, our biggest client. Laura, Harold's familiar voice boomed through the speaker. I've been trying to reach you through your company email, but they said you're no longer with them. That's correct, I confirmed. I recently left Trellis Systems. Left? You practically built the place. Harold sounded genuinely shocked. What happened? New leadership. New direction, I said simply. Well, that explains a lot, he said. We had a call with some new person yesterday, Jenna something, and frankly, it was a disaster. She couldn't answer basic questions about our implementation timeline, and she kept referring to us as Patterson Health Systems instead of Patterson Healthcare. I winced inwardly. Patterson was notoriously particular about their brand identity. Anyway, Harold continued, our contract is up for renewal next month, and I wanted to talk to you about the pricing structure before we commit to another 2 years. But now, I'm not sure we want to move forward at all. I took a careful sip of coffee. I understand your concerns, Harold. You need a partner who understands your business. We need you, Laura. You've pulled our bacon out of the fire more times than I can count. Remember when our system crashed during the Medicare audit last year? You had your technical team on it within 20 minutes on a Sunday. I remember, I said. So, what are you doing now? Taking some time off? I hesitated, then made a decision. Actually, I've been considering some opportunities. There's a company called Meridian Technologies that's been persistent in their outreach. Meridian was a rising competitor to Trellis, with a similar product suite but a more innovative approach. They'd been trying to hire me for years. Harold was silent for a moment. Meridian, huh? They've pitched to us before. Solid product. But we went with Trellis because of you. I understand, I said neutrally. Would you? Harold paused. If you were to join Meridian, would you be handling the Patterson account? I imagine that would be part of the discussion, yes. Another pause. Then, interesting. Our IT director has been pushing for us to explore alternatives. Anyway, maybe we should hold off on that renewal with Trellis, see how things develop. After I hung up, I sat looking at my phone for a long moment. Then I scrolled through my contacts and selected a number I'd saved but never called. Hello, this is Laura Pickens, I said when the call connected. I believe your CEO, Gregory Wilson, has expressed interest in meeting with me. I'd like to schedule that conversation now. The dam was about to break, and Evan Strickland had no idea what was coming. The offices of Meridian Technologies occupied 3 floors of a gleaming glass tower in downtown Raleigh. As I rode the elevator to the executive suite, I reflected on how different this was from my early days at Trellis, when we'd operated out of a converted warehouse with temperamental air conditioning and a coffee machine that worked only on Tuesdays. Gregory Wilson, Meridian's CEO, was waiting for me himself, a courtesy that spoke volumes after Evan's dismissive treatment. In his early 60s, Gregory had the confident bearing of someone who'd built his success brick by brick, rather than through flashy acquisitions. Laura, he said warmly, extending his hand. I can't tell you how pleased I am that you finally returned our calls. Timing is everything, I replied with a small smile. His office had a wall of windows overlooking the city. As we sat down, I noted the framed photos on his desk, family pictures, not the vanity shots of celebrities and influencers that had begun appearing in Evan's office. I'll be direct, Gregory said. We want you to build out our enterprise sales division. You've created something remarkable at Trellis, and we've been watching your work for years. And what exactly would that role entail? I asked, though I already had a good idea. Executive Vice President of Sales and Client Relations. Full autonomy to build your team. Equity in the company, he said, then leaned forward slightly, and the freedom to bring in the clients you believe would benefit from our platform. There it was, the unspoken understanding that I would bring my relationships with me. That's a compelling offer, I acknowledged. We're prepared to be competitive on compensation as well, Gregory added, sliding a folder across the desk. I opened it and carefully masked my reaction. The number was significantly higher than what I'd been making at Trellis, a place where I'd repeatedly been told I was at the top of the pay band for my position. I'll need to review this in detail, I said, closing the folder. Of course, Gregory nodded. Take your time. But I should mention that we're particularly interested in expanding in the healthcare and construction sectors. I understand those were areas where you had some significant wins. Patterson Healthcare. National Building Supply, I said. Together, they represented over $5 million in annual revenue for Trellis. I had some success there, I confirmed modestly. Our conversation continued for another hour, during which Gregory outlined Meridian's vision and growth strategy. It was refreshingly substantive, focused on product development and client success rather than buzzwords and vanity metrics. As we wrapped up, Gregory walked me to the elevator. One last thing, he said. We've heard through the grapevine that there might be some talent becoming available from Trellis in the coming weeks. People who worked with you. I raised an eyebrow. The rumor mill works quickly. It always does, he agreed. If you were to join us, would you have any interest in rebuilding your team? Valerie Thomas from Enterprise Accounts? Daria from Client Success? My people, the ones who'd been with me through years of growth, who understood my methods and shared my client-first philosophy. I might have some recommendations, I said carefully. The elevator doors opened, and Gregory shook my hand again. We'll be in touch soon. I have a good feeling about this, Laura. As I rode down to the lobby, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Valerie. National Building Supply just called. They're considering their options for the next contract cycle. Jenna tried to handle the call herself. It was a disaster. I tucked my phone away, my mind already working through the possibilities. Evan had unwittingly set a cascade in motion, one that couldn't be stopped by suddenly realizing his mistake. Within a week, I had signed my contract with Meridian. This feels like déjà vu, Valerie said, arranging family photos on her new desk at Meridian Technologies. Except with better lighting and a coffee machine that works every day. I leaned against the doorframe of her office. A real office, not the open-plan workspace she'd had at Trellis. How does it feel to be Director of Client Operations? She grinned. Like I should have followed you years ago. In the 6 weeks since I joined Meridian, things had moved with the kind of purposeful efficiency that had been my hallmark at Trellis. Gregory had given me the autonomy he'd promised, and I'd quickly assembled key pieces of my former team. Valerie Thomas, Daria, each had received substantial promotions and increases in compensation, recognition of the value that Trellis had failed to acknowledge. My phone rang, and I excused myself to take the call in my office. It was Harold from Patterson Healthcare. Laura, we've made our decision, he said without preamble. We're not renewing with Trellis. Their service has gone downhill since you left, and frankly, this new salesperson they assigned us seems more interested in taking selfies in our lobby than understanding our compliance requirements. I kept my voice neutral. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be, Harold chuckled. Because we want to talk to Meridian about taking over. The deadline for our Trellis renewal is next week, and we need to have something in place. I'd be happy to connect you with our team, I said. No, Laura, we want to work with you directly. You know our systems, our challenges. We trust you. After we hung up, I sent a quick message to Gregory informing him that Patterson Healthcare, a $5 million annual account, was coming our way. His response was immediate. "This is why we hired you." The same scene played out repeatedly over the next month. National Building Supply, Western Financial Group, Hartman Manufacturing. One by one, Trellis's biggest clients reached out, expressing dissatisfaction with the new regime and interest in following me to Meridian. Some were more direct than others. The CEO of Western Financial didn't mince words. "Your replacement showed up to our quarterly review meeting wearing a crop top and taking notes on her phone. When our CFO asked about security protocols, she said she'd circle back and never did." By the end of the quarter, over $15 million in client contracts had either moved to Meridian or announced their intention not to renew with Trellis. It wasn't just about me. It was about the fundamental misunderstanding Evan had regarding what our clients valued. They didn't want flashy presentations and social media presence. They wanted reliability, expertise, the confidence that when problems arose, someone who understood their business would be there to solve them. I was working late one evening when Gregory stopped by my office, a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses in hand. "I thought we should celebrate," he said, setting the glasses down. "The Western Financial contract came through today. That puts us over $15 million in new business this quarter, all from former Trellis clients." As he poured the champagne, he added casually, "Have you heard what's happening over there?" "I try not to pay attention to gossip," I replied diplomatically. Gregory smiled. "Their stock is down 30%. There's talk that the board is meeting next week to discuss leadership concerns. Apparently, their first quarterly earnings call after your departure was, let's call it eventful." I accepted the glass he offered. "Business is cyclical. Companies have ups and downs." "True," he acknowledged. "But losing 60% of your revenue in a single quarter isn't a cycle. It's a catastrophe." We clinked glasses, and I allowed myself a small smile. "To new beginnings," I said. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. Its subject line was bland and corporate. "Trellis Systems announces executive changes." I opened it, curious despite myself. Trellis Systems today announced that Evan Strickland will be stepping down as Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. The board has appointed Jerome Phillips, currently Chief Operating Officer, as interim CEO while a search for a permanent replacement is conducted. There was a quote from the board chair about returning to core business principles and refocusing on client relationships, but the message was clear: Evan was out. I forwarded the email to Gregory with a single question mark. His response came within minutes: "Sinking ship, too little too late." He was right. The damage had been done. In the 3 months since I joined Meridian, we'd not only secured contracts with Trellis's former clients, but had begun integrating them into our systems. The switching costs were significant, meaning even if Trellis suddenly got its act together, these clients were unlikely to return. My phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. "Did you see Barkham?" "Barkham?" Before I could respond, another message appeared, this one from an unknown number. "Laura, it's Evan. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen, surprised by his audacity. After a moment's consideration, I typed back, "I'm in meetings all day." His response was immediate. "Please. It's important." Against my better judgment, I agreed to a coffee at a neutral location, a small cafe halfway between our offices. He was already there when I arrived, looking noticeably different from the confident CEO who had dismissed me months earlier. His designer shirt was wrinkled, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," he said as I sat down. "What can I do for you, Evan?" I kept my tone professional, neither friendly nor hostile. He sighed heavily. "I made a mistake, Laura. A massive, company-destroying mistake. Business decisions sometimes have unintended consequences," I offered neutrally. "This wasn't a business decision," he admitted, rubbing his temples. "It was ego. Jenna convinced me that the sales department needed younger energy and modern approaches. She said clients wanted to work with people who understood digital transformation." I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "The board fired her 2 weeks ago," he continued. "After the Patterson account left, They demanded answers. She had no idea how to handle client relationships at that level. None. And now they fired you too, I observed. He winced. Technically, I resigned, but yes. He leaned forward, his voice low and urgent. Laura, I want to make you an offer. Come back to Trellis. Name your price, your title. The board would approve anything to get the clients back. For a moment, I was speechless. The audacity was almost admirable. Evan, I said finally, those clients aren't coming back. They've signed multi-year contracts with Meridian. Their data has been migrated. Their teams have been trained on new systems. But you could convince them. I wouldn't even try, I cut him off. They're happy where they are. We've given them everything Trellis promised, but failed to deliver. He slumped back in his chair, defeat written across his face. The company is imploding. The board is talking about selling off assets. I felt a twinge of sadness for the company I'd helped build, for the people still there who had played no role in Evan's poor decisions. But business, as I'd learned, wasn't personal. I wish you the best, I said, standing up. But my future is with Meridian now. As I walked away, my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from Gregory. Western Financial just doubled their contract size. Board wants to fast-track your promotion to Chief Revenue Officer. Let's discuss tomorrow. I smiled. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about moving forward and thriving. 6 months after joining Meridian, I stood at the podium during our company-wide meeting, addressing over 300 employees. The quarterly results displayed on the screen behind me told a story more powerful than any words could convey. Revenue up 64% year over year. New enterprise clients, 17, 12 former Trellis accounts. Client retention rate, 98%. Stock price increased 42% since last quarter. These aren't just numbers, I told the assembled team. They're the result of a fundamental philosophy that business is built on relationships, expertise, and trust, not trends or personalities. From my position on stage, I could see my core team in the front row, Valerie, Thomas, Daria, and the others who had followed me from Trellis. Behind them were the new hires we'd brought on to handle our explosive growth, eager faces, ready to learn the methodologies that had proven so successful. Today, I'm pleased to announce that Meridian has been recognized by Industry Standard magazine as the fastest-growing enterprise software company in the Southeast. I continued, pausing for the applause that erupted. This achievement belongs to all of you. After the meeting, Gregory pulled me aside, a newspaper folded under his arm. Have you seen this? He asked, handing it to me. Trellis Systems acquired in fire sale, stock down 78% from peak was the headline for the business section. The story explained how a bigger rival had acquired the faltering business for a fraction of its previous price, intending to cut unnecessary staff and absorb its technology. Gregory remarked, I've heard they're closing the Raleigh office completely, unifying their headquarters operations. I returned the paper to him. That is regrettable for the workers. Not all of them, grinned Gregory. In the last week, we have received more than 40 applications from Trellis employees. It appears that news about our leadership and culture has spread. I reflected on the folks I had left behind, the ones who had worked with me to build Trellis yet were unable to depart when I did. I instructed HR to give those applicants first priority. Some extremely gifted individuals there are deserving of better. In our sector, the yearly technology conference in Charlotte was always a big deal. Executives networked, companies displayed their most recent developments, and alliances were established. Meridian had the biggest booth on the floor this year, which reflected our recent rise to the top of the market. I saw Evan Strickland across the hall when I was chatting with a prospective customer. He was not a representative of any business. Consultant was all that was written on his name badge. After a brief moment of eye contact, he hastily averted his gaze and stepped farther into the crowd. Jerome Phillips, Trellis's former COO who had temporarily served as temporary CEO prior to the purchase, was sitting at the same table as me later that evening at the conference dinner. He held out his hand and said, Laura Pickens. I must admit, there was quite a cascade effect after your departure. Business evolution, I said tactfully. Businesses either adapt or they don't. Jerome laughed. One way to phrase it is that. Another is that Evan Strickland replaced you with his girlfriend, which was the most expensive error in the company's history. I drank some water. What's going on after the acquisition? Brutal, he acknowledged. The majority of the executive team has left. Only a small portion of the development crew was retained by the purchaser. He leaned a little closer. Evan's reputation is ruined between us. After the Trellis collapse, he has been attempting for months to get another CEO position, but no board will consider him. I nodded without saying anything. And Jenna? Jerome shook his head and went on. She has resumed sharing lifestyle stuff on social media, as far as I can tell. Her brief stint as a company executive was not featured on her profile. Jerome gave me his card as supper came to an end. I would love to speak with you if you ever have opportunities at Meridian. Some of us discovered the consequences of discarding the incorrect person the hard way. I put his card in the pocket of my jacket. I'll remember that. I couldn't help but chuckle at the irony as I looked around the sophisticated ballroom, which was full with business titans who were suddenly excited to collaborate with Meridian. My biggest career achievement came from being abruptly knocked off the corporate ladder, not from moving up it.